Meeting now come to order. We'll have roll call. Mr. Hirsch. Here. Mr. Landwehr. Here. Mr. Olson.
Here.
Mr. Black. Here. Mr. Cowley. Here. Ms. Burnett.
Here.
And I'm obviously here. All please rise to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda was posted throughout the district according to school board policy, published as legal admin secure telegram, posted on the district webpage, and sent to the WNXR radio station for announcement. A meeting notice was sent to the connection publication. Item 3, approval of the September 11th, 2023 agenda.
You had September 11th, October 9th.
October 9th, that's what I meant. 2023 agenda. And we would need a motion.
I move to approve.
Okay, for October. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The consent agenda for this evening's meeting is the September 11th board meeting minutes. And the treasury report, Mr. Landwehr.
Summary of the treasury report as of September 30th, 2023. General fund, general account. On September 30th, 2023, there was a balance of $3,397,212.77 in cash and investments. Receipts since the 1st of October and not included in the September 30 balance are $24,500.69. And the disbursements from tonight's October 9th board meeting total $152,635.73. The flexible spending account on September 30th, 2023, there was a balance of $25,542.77 in cash and investments. The health reimbursement account on September 30th, 2023, there was a balance of $9,309,000. All right. $9,360.88 in cash and investments. Those kind of numbers you think that was running. So. Debt service fund on September 30th, 2023, there was a balance of $673.73 in cash and investments. And a more detailed report on fund activity is included for your review in the financial statements.
Thank you. Item C is the payment of invoices, and we've all had a chance to see them and communicate with Mr. Petricott if any questions. Item D, resignation/employment. Mr. Warren.
Yeah, we, in your packet, there was, we added something today, because last week when we were meeting, we had no one had applied for the part-time position, but we got somebody late last week or mid last week, and we were recommending Marissa Kaiser for the position of a student transition coordinator. She will be a 0.5 FTE employee. There should have been a letter at your table tonight from Mr. Krause.
And she's met all the qualifications.
Actually, she was the person she interviewed for the position first, I think, and she was, I think, our former #1 candidate, but in her schedule. So, yep, she is set to go if approved.
Okay, and there were no resignations and employment other than that.
There were.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And item 5, report on the Wisconsin Act 20, Mr. Larrabee.
Good evening, everyone. I want to just start by saying thank you for a chance to speak tonight, and also thank you, Mrs. Janigo, who sent out, I believe, to everybody what the actual legislation is. So if you haven't taken time to look through it, that's okay. It's a wonderful 10-page document that will put anybody to sleep because it really references if this, then that, and this is how, but only when something else. So I just thought it'd be worthwhile to be able to talk a little bit about it from the elementary level, kind of how we approach things in the past and how it fits into what they're asking. And then to give you guys a chance to ask questions because our kids are at stake and we want to make sure that our kids get the best reading instruction they can. And I think we have some really good things in place already, and this will hopefully make things better for us. So if you didn't get a chance, I'll go kind of very briefly with what we know and then talk a little bit about what we can expect or what we can see down the road. So Act 20 was passed on the 19th of July. And really what it did is it put into place kind of the creation of a council at the state level to look at how do we teach reading. So for the last, let's say 10 years, there's been a philosophical debate that across our country has kind of taken form, and it has said, well, here's maybe a better way to teach reading. So some of us that have been around a little longer than others may have taught reading from a standpoint of we read a whole text and then we talk to them about, well, let's look for clues within the story that would help us to understand what's going on in the story, things like that. And over the years, we've seen a growth in the understanding that when kids learn to read, they really need to have explicit instruction, things like phonics, letter recognition, phonemes, and how letters work together to make sounds, things like that. So the emergence of what's called science-based reading has really grown across our country the last few years. So Wisconsin is one of several states to enact such a law as Act 20. And what we've really seen is their movement is we want our schools to have a more consistent platform, be it in Madison all the way up to Naples, so that we have everybody using the similar type of platform to teach reading, which is the science-based approach, and really just targets how do we teach it systematically from letter recognition through early reading skills in third grade, and then on through the middle school, high school era. So you will see some of the language in the act that actually talks about a K-12 reading scope. But what they're really starting with right now is looking at how are all of our schools teaching reading in that kindergarten through third grade grade band. So how that impacts us. Out of this creation of an office, it's called the Office of Literacy. What they will do is they will appoint certain groups from, or certain members from different groups. So the legislature got to pick 3, the Senate majority got to pick 3, and the state superintendent got to appoint 3. That has already happened. They haven't released who those people are, but that group of 9 members will come together, and what they will do is start forming some of the work that's going to move forward across our state with how CSAs are going to receive some additional support for reading specialists. Historically, that has been a position that's been very hard for some districts to get. So part of this act says that in the state of Wisconsin, the DPI is going to fund up to 64 reading specialists throughout the state. And those are going to be appointed to our CSA areas, and it's going to be based off of school performances. So if you have schools that historically have performed low on our state assessments, they're going to get identified as school in need, and then those CSAs will be able to allocate those services. What that means for us locally is there's a bottom threshold of up to 3, or a minimum of 3 reading specialists. So we don't have any schools in our CSA that I believe have been identified as schools at risk, but we are guaranteed that we'll at least get 3 reading specialists here in our CSA. So our hope is that those people are able to come here, be identified, hired in by our CSAs, and then be able to service our schools, not just here in Maple, but also within our CSAs. So that's good news for us because then we'll have more help for reading instruction in the Northland. What we can expect kind of going down the road. So that reading committee they're going to start working with kind of the DPI as it currently exists to identify curricular resources that meet the criteria that they're going to outline for a science-based approach. So in the coming year, I believe it's up until January, I think it's up to January of 2025, so in the next calendar year, they will have a year's worth of work to look at what curricular resources will be endorsed by the state. And when they pick those, like we've seen in other states, they'll create kind of a repository that school districts can go to and say, well, what are approved resources? And then if you happen to need to buy new resources, then the district will receive some funding up to, I believe it's half price. So if we were to buy into a new curriculum, as we did last year, potentially the district could get reimbursed for that. Locally, I've asked if, because we bought in last year, I have asked if that happens and the resource that we bought into does get approved, as it has in other states, would we be able to qualify for that reimbursement? And we seem to know the answer yet. So I'm hoping that we can maybe recoup some of that price on that. If we can get 50%, that'd probably help some other areas.
We love that.
So some of the things that we already have in place, I will toot our own horn because I like to be able to brag. The elementary level for a long time predates me. We've had a system of assessing our kids. That is a requirement that the PPI will put into place, both for 4K kids and also for kids in kindergarten through third grade. But for us, we do it all the way through the middle school. That at least 3 times a year, we assess our students in reading skills. So at the elementary level, within the first 45 days of the school year, we have an assessment that our teachers do with the kids and one that they take on the computer. And then that tells us where our kids are at with our reading foundation. One of the things that the Act talks about is you will have criteria for how you need to identify students at risk. That's something that we've always done, or at least since I've been here. So we've finished that process right now, and we've identified 51 students at NES that are going to get additional support, and also 19 that are in River that are going to get additional support. And that's already in place. So it is part of the Act, and we have a pretty good background doing that. And then with that, they also have recommendations that will probably be more refined as the legislation picks its, or the Office of Literacy picks its curriculum. They're also going to pick resources that we can use for approved interventions. So if we have our team that's going to work with students in small groups to support their reading skills, we'll also have selected interventions that we'll be able to use, kind of like going to a doctor to get a vaccination. We're going to have something like that for reading to boost our students' skills. So that's kind of where are we and what can we expect. So any questions? Mr. Ryan?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you for this information. Appreciate it. Can you double click a little bit on our performance? I'd like to, if you have this information available at the top of your head, I'd like to know kind of where we're at today.
Sure.
And what really kind of raised my eyebrows a bit is there was 51 students at NES and 19, and I remember that you've identified needed additional support. Can you double click on that?
Yeah, so when I talk about kind of benchmarking, if you will, at the beginning of the year and then in the middle and maybe at the end, we kind of assess where our kids are at on a national norm. So our benchmark is we're looking at kids that are above or below the 20th percentile. So at risk, according to DPI, is going to be 25th percentile nationally next year, or on an approved screener, they may change that. But if we have 1 million kids that norm the screen, they're looking at anybody that falls below that 25th percentile. And then with our current assessment that we use, it's the vendor's called PassBridge. It gives us feedback on what it is that the kids need to work on. Is it letter recognition? Is it fluency? Is it understanding comprehension? Depending on the different levels of the reading skills. And then that's how our team of teachers in the classroom or our interventionists, that's how they target on this is what we need to do next. So we take that lifetime data and then we apply, well, these kids have, maybe it's 3 or 4 kids at say first grade level. They need to keep working on how to sound out words. So they're just really not understanding the phonological components of reading right now, and how to break those words down, approach them, read them. So we may have a group of kids that are going to get that from teacher A, might be Mrs. Liss, or from teacher B, we have these kids that are still working on basic letters. They're first graders and they don't know all their letters yet. So we're able to prescribe. And then what we do is we run for 8 weeks and we kind of continue to monitor their growth. And then after 8 weeks, if they need to, they may go into a different group or they may go back to their regular class and their peers if they've been able to close that gap.
Does the 51 number go up and down every year?
Yeah, obviously the target keeps moving too, because I happened to have sat in with a first grade meeting this morning, and at the beginning of the year, if you think of sight words, just regular words that you would expect kids to know of words like that, that list goes from a very small amount at the beginning of the year to at the end of the year, I believe it's 51 words that they are to have mastered. So that target keeps moving. And we typically, we'll trade kids in and out. After 8 weeks, these kids have made the goal, so then they move on. Maybe we have some other kids that that are falling behind, or maybe they're just kind of on that bubble and they're progressing, but maybe not as quickly as we'd like to see. So we want to be able to prescribe that and work with those kids to keep them moving forward. And some kids, I was one of those kids that are just a slower reader, and over time, those skills will catch up, but maybe it just takes a couple more years.
And did I hear you correct, that it's not a lot of change required to be compliant with?
From what we know right now, I think we're in a pretty good spot. The bigger piece would be the significant investment into a reading curriculum. So I've worked with the vendor on, hey, what can you guys tell me? What can you expect? And they've been able to show me on other states' repositories, other states' lists that they've made that criteria. Colorado's list is an easy one to look at. I can send it to anybody. But our current vendor is, our resource is Benchmark Advanced. That program is a science-based reading approach. And our team went through a process last year leading us to this. They were able to select it with confidence, and there's some learning and growing pains with any new resource. But we expect that that's going to be on the list. So based on what we know, I think we can continue to do a lot. What's exciting for us is if CISA is going to get more help and more support for reading specialists, that may help in our area. We could access some of those things. Mrs. Craig is directly behind me. She is our reading specialist for the district. She's been pivotal working with our reading support team. And we map out, we have part of this is we have to have a plan. I think it's after January of 24, which is coming quickly. We have to have a plan in place for if we identify these kids, how are we going to support them and how are we going to track their growth? And that's something that we've done as long as I've been here. Goes back to people that were here before me. So, Mr. Ryan?
I was gonna ask about curriculum.
Yeah.
Were they, I mean, obviously it's a little preliminary, but I guess I was glad to hear that you thought that our current curriculum is probably gonna qualify, but in the event that it doesn't, have you heard any, when they determine what curriculum you have, are they gonna allow a phase in over a number of years to do so? Because curriculum's a real bag, in my opinion. And
well, it's a very expensive lease, as you guys know. So we bought into our current resource for 6 years. Based on what I read when I went through the statute multiple times and then a couple conversations, it would be here's the ones that are going to get approved within the next calendar year. And then anybody that wants to move into that direction will be able to phase out and then phase in, if you will. And any consequence of it would come down the road. Because what they are saying is if you're going to receive state funds, as we obviously do as a public school, that you're going to have to abide by these rules, but they haven't put a back date on it yet, at least not that I've seen. So I wouldn't think it would be 24, but they may say by the 26-27 school year, you need to be using these resources in order to get our money, which I could see happening. But again, based on what we've seen in other states that have already been through this, our current vendor has made those lists. So I'm hopeful.
Do we know how that CISA person is going to be utilized? Are they going to be working with Tanya, with the teachers?
I think it's probably going to operate much like what we currently have, that being we're not a deemed at-risk district, they will probably be there as a resource for districts. What is in the act, read verbatim, is if they're a targeted at-risk school, then they're going to be assigned a reading specialist. So if we happen to have really poor reading performance growth, then those people in other districts that are at risk would be assigned somebody. What I think it's going to mean here, because we don't have those struggles, is they'll be assigned to CISA, but be able to network and help us, which could be working alongside Mrs. Craig, or it could be possible services to come out and work with our reading teachers, which at the elementary is their teacher. Yet to be determined. Yes. Also exciting, and again, thank you, Mrs. Craig. So last year there was some match funding, some available funding for teachers to opt into a training called Letters, to be able to get some additional training on how to teach reading. We have Mrs. Gidley at Iron River is going through that training right now. We do know that every principal in the state of Wisconsin that has students K-3, I believe, is going to be required, and also Tanya, because she's our district reading specialist. So both of us are going to be completing that training alongside Mrs. Gilly. So, and it's really about how to teach reading. So the state has put forth money in order to teach the people that are impacting kids how to best teach reading.
Just that our district, kudos, we've been very assertive, aggressive, progressive in staying in the know with everything that's gonna be happening and then getting ahead of that. So when we found out there were gonna be grant monies available last year to get someone certified, we went after that grant and we received that. So we strategically had a plan. So our strategic plan was to get someone trained out at Iron River with that grant. So there is someone with the vision of them this year doing our elementary teachers at NES. We applied also for the second grant and received that as well. So it's all, we're gonna be able to do all of the required licensing for K-3 via the grant, which I'm super excited about and strategic. So it is a requirement that a district reading specialist, you have a district reading specialist, which are hard to find. So, but we also, that our elementary principals are licensed. So Brad and I are both going through that training right now via a grant. And then we have Gavin, who's being trained at the Iron River. We also opted for part of that grant for her for an additional X amount of dollars through the grant. She'll actually be an on-site trainer, which will be invaluable for us as we move through this. So she'll be able to train the elementary at Iron River and support the NES teachers. And through that second wave of the grant, we'll be able to train the K-3 teachers at NES. So we've just been really trying to end position for that. Obviously, I have my 317 reading specialist. I also have a 316, but we have a 316. Just hired someone in a position who also has a 316. We have one at the middle school as a 316, and then we also have someone in progress. So we've been really cultivating and getting prepared for this, which it's nice to say, yes, because we're starting to see districts that aren't, and it's getting a little bit scary.
With good purpose, we've been able to stage, we're going to be prepared to make these changes before they say you have to make them. So we have people on board that are getting trained so that we can continue to move it forward to meet the expectations of the state before they say, here's the date.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for that report and also for all the work that you've already done.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're in a very good place, so thank you all.
Okay, item 6, approval item, a request from Mr. Nihus and FFA for 9 students to attend the overnight trip to the Mission Impact Leadership Conference in Green Bay on November 16th to 17th.
Hi, so I'm Lily Flacco. I'm serving as the president of our FFA chapter here at Northwestern. And today we come here asking for permission to attend the Mission and Impact Conference down in Green Bay. So how this conference usually works is our juniors and seniors that are going will go to the impact part, which is basically a 2 days worth of a, for lack of better words, group meeting of talking about what we want to impact and how we're going to impact our futures and how we can impact our chapters and already have and how we can continue to do that. And then the mission part is for our sophomores and our freshmen this year. And we're taking 9 students down there. We're not asking for any funds. We fund all of our own, but we are just asking for permission to attend.
Logistically, I guess is my cup of tea here. So it is November 16 and 17, which is a Thursday, Friday, and it is the Thursday, Friday before Thanksgiving break and your opening weekend. So that's the important piece of it from the student standpoint, I think. So it'll be the 16th and 17th. So we'll leave here both that morning to drive down to Green Bay. The conference doesn't start until the afternoon. But with the 5-hour drive, we'll probably stop somewhere along the way, do a little bit of a tour somewhere on the way down. And then the conference gets over in the afternoon on that Friday, and then we'll drive back and get back to school then about 10 o'clock probably that Friday evening. Taking a school van with the 9 students, 4 of which are here, 5, I guess 5th one is sitting here. And so we've got, I believe, about equal, I think it's 4 students at Impact, which is the juniors and senior conference, and then 5 in Mission, which would be the sophomore and freshman conference. And they're put on by the state and national FFA officers that come in and split them up by the age group and go through some leadership activities with them in large group setting and then smaller group settings. And so they get to work with students and FFA members from around the state in various leadership activities and things.
Sorry, to add to that, we attend a fall leadership conference with our officers, and I will say getting to go and see your fellow students and peers that are your age, that have the same passions as you and want the same things or even different things to happen in our communities, in our sections, and just being able to feel supported and knowing that there's other kids out there that love the same hobbies as you, want the same things to happen for our schools. It's very nice to be able to go and see what's going on throughout our state and how other FFA chapters are run. And I usually take notes during all these conferences and harass Mr. Nagus on the way home about all our new options we are going to be doing. So it is very nice to go and see all the new options and everything all the other chapters are going to bring back around.
That's what a good mayor does. Good for you.
She grabbed shotgun and then holds out the notebook in there. I've got all these questions.
He got lucky last time. The notebook was lost, but then I found it.
Is there any questions?
Well, it's good. Could everyone identify themselves so we get on the record?
I'm Ashley Erickson.
And what year are you in? What
I
grade are you in?
am a sophomore.
Okay,
I'm Gannon Hill. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Isaac Pooler. I'm the reporter, and I'm a sophomore.
okay, thank you.
So the recommendation would be to approve this request and let the crew go on the trip. So.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve,
Make a motion to approve.
and is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt, here. Any other questions, other opportunity? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Have a
coming.
good night.
Get your stand up before you go.
Okay, let's start college now, early credit program. 6B.
Okay, so we've got two, we received requests from two students for participation through the State College Now Early Credit Program for spring of 2024. Summary of those requests are in your packets, and both students are requesting to attend UW Superior. Students have requested more than one class because the class schedule for the post-secondary courses have not been issued yet. As per state law, students need to have any classes they potentially wish to take in the spring semester be submitted to the high school office by October 1st and approved by the school board prior to the deadline of registration. We're always aware that there is an 18 credit limit per student for their high school careers, according to state statutes. Once approved and scheduling has occurred for the second semester of these students, some do not have the flexibility to take all of the classes, or some just choose not to participate. Due to all the new Northwood College Articulate courses, advanced placement classes offering at the UW Superior English and Calculus classes, we are seeing less students making requests to leave campus. So our recommendation is to approve both of these.
Any questions?
Okay, so at risk of asking a dumb question.
There is no dumb question. I've asked quite a few.
Who's paying for who pays for it?
We do, school.
So the school, okay, so we're paying for their.
Doesn't the family have a portion of that? Did that pass a couple years ago?
I was wondering too.
I think there's a portion.
Small portion.
Yeah.
$25.
But
So
That's it?
If they don't pass,
if they don't pass, they're financially responsible for the credits.
But I will tell you, as experience in other, just in this whole process, in this whole program, this is money well spent by our district, or any district, get kids a chance to get a couple college classes in while they're still going to high school. It just alleviates those classes later, like, shortens their college time up a little bit. 'Cause
Well,
it's gonna be tough.
Frankly, as a parent of college students, I'm surprised more people don't take advantage of it.
So,
Just from a.
Yeah.
pure financial
Is the 18 credit limit what we're responsible for? Because I thought we had a student graduate with like 30 college credits a couple of years ago.
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, I think we did.
State law, up to 18 credits, we're only allowed for 18 credits.
But they can.
But they can't take more.
They can take as
We're
many
just
as-
only, okay.
I think that's two years.
Yeah.
And those funds come out of our Title IV grant monies. That were
It's a
allocated.
great opportunity for.
I love that word grant.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's why I thought, I'm just gonna throw that in there.
I had any more kids than you need to have. Okay, so, is there no other questions? We need a motion. And a second.
Making a motion to approve.
Now, second.
We have a motion, a second. Get that? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item C, 22, 23, 24, no, 22, 23 budget revisions.
In your packet, you guys have this, it's a pretty standard annual process for us as a district. So these are Fund 10 expenditures. Fund 10 is basically the major fund that runs the overwhelming majority of our district. And each year we do this after audited numbers come back to us. There's a little bit of a blurb on the very bottom that talks about some of the increased expenditures that we had in the areas that they increased. So big areas, we did increase in salaries. We did provide a raise to all of our employees throughout the district. And the big areas that we had big increases on are a lot of the purchase services that basically allow us to run the district day in and day out. Maintenance of our buildings and grounds. So the big ticket items were, we had a building controls project in this building last year that was completed. That was part of the boiler project that we did. And that is wrapped up and working very well, which we're thankful for. As we all remember, our winter last year, we had a very, very expensive year moving snow out of our parking lots and off of our sidewalks. We did have emergency snow removal needed at Northwestern Elementary School and the middle school. We had increased fuel costs, as everybody felt, and then also increases in travel and supply costs. The increases in debt retirement were related to our interest rates for short-term borrowing. Those increased, annual percentages increased. And then also we had an increase in insurance premiums on our property, auto, and workman's compensation policies. And then the last increase that was noted there was increased dues and fees for student and staff programs across the district. So ultimately those increases were kind of signed at the times for us. Everything is more expensive than what we'd hoped. That's just the reality of it. So this is kind of a, like I said, a standard procedure that we do every year after our auditors come back with numbers. And then this will get posted throughout the district, I believe, once we hopefully approve it here. No. Any questions?
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion. Approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the 23-24 tax levy and budget. Mr. Patrick.
As it kind of states there, really it's October 15th, which is a Sunday, so October 13th, aka this Friday, I will get the certified state aid number from the state of Wisconsin. What this budget item allows us really to do is myself, Mr. Moore, to set the tax levy based off of that final piece of the puzzle that we need to have to determine what our final tax levy is through the revenue limit formula. So this one really gives us the opportunity to finalize the levy without having to come back for a special meeting, which would really ultimately be next Monday, because I'll have that information. So It's the last big piece of the puzzle. State aid, equalization aid, it does help us mostly, and I always note this every year. It's really the taxpayer. If there's any increases in state aid, that does not mean that there's increases in functional dollars for us as a district. The best analogy I give, it's a teeter-totter. If you put more money in on the state aid, in order to balance that out, the money comes off the property tax levy. So an increase of $250,000 in state aid does not equate to an increase of $250,000 in our operating budget. It is taken off the property tax levy. So as a property tax owner, state aid helps keep that mill rate down, the tax bill down. And it's important for us in terms of being able to operate our district too. So that's what this item is, basically giving us permission to set that levy based off that last piece of information that the state will give us this Friday. And my recommendation would be to use the allowable amount in the revenue limit formula.
Yeah, just one comment or question. Cody, you didn't talk to this much, but I think what solidifies in my mind the importance of this levy is the declining enrollment.
I'll give a report on that in a little bit here.
You know, because to me, that they go hand in hand. And with that trend the way it is, it's like we have to do that. And that's what I see.
The short answer is yes. The most important statistic in our revenue limit formula is the number of students we have in our district, as it is for every other district, all 425 of us roughly across the state. It's what drives our revenues. That's just the reality. Any questions?
Any other questions? Mr. Pastor Connor? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to allow them to set that tax levy. Information available.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
A roll call, please.
Oh, this is a roll call. Okay. Mrs. Brunette?
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Mr. Ramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Brandon? Yes. Yes. The motion carried. Thank you. Okay, item E will be with Mr. Patrick Cotter, Chippewa Valley Bank, right?
This one, yeah, this one is I guess a procedural one. Initially, when we brought it to the board, we were looking at potentially a 5-year note. Our goal is never to use it for 5 years. The goal is to pay it off early. That 5-year note came with a rider that could be an early payment penalty. So we'd like to officially bring it back to a 4-year note for the 2 buses that we had to borrow to purchase. The 4-year option does not come with any early payment penalty, is really what it boils down to. So we just need a motion and approval for that kind of procedural step. It doesn't change the dollar amounts on the loan, all of that's the same. It's just instead of a 5-year note, we're going with a 4-year note to allow us to pay that off early in the event that we can.
Rate stay the same.
Rates stay the same, yeah, all things being equal. That's all it is. It's procedural step.
Okay, well, I entertain a motion to approve then.
I'll make a motion to approve revised loan for Chippewa.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a tie. Mrs. Olson. Okay, it'd be a roll call vote. Mr. Lander,
Yes.
Mr. Olson, Mr. Bonnet,
Yes.
Mr. Cowley,
Yes.
Hirsch, Ms. Burnett.
Yes.
And I vote yes too. I need to. Motion carried. Okay, still with Mr. Patrick Connor. Item F, resolution. Resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in an amount not to exceed 2.96.
So yeah, this one's kind of me. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron. Is it Bushberger? I want to make sure I'm right
Yes,
on that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I see
Aaron
that.
is joining us from Ellers. We work with Ellers to make sure that we do the short-term borrowing process correctly. Basically, we did this parameters resolution back in September. Once we have that, Ellers are the folks that help us put this out to bid and help us basically find the lowest interest rate for that short-term borrowing that we need. So I'll turn it over to Aaron to kind of give you a little bit of 101.
Thank you. And my name's Aaron Bushberger. You're probably more familiar with Jeff and Shelby from Ellers, but I'm on the advisory team with both Jeff and Shelby. So as Cody mentioned, September 11th, you did approve the resolution authorizing us to go and seek proposals for your short-term borrowing. So we did that September 28th. We solicited bids on your behalf, and all those bids were due to us on October 5th. So I think in your board packet, you do have what's known as our sale day report, maybe? No? Got it. Got it, okay. So I'll just kind of walk through a summary of that information. So good news is we did get 5 bids for your short-term borrowing. Compare that to last year, we got 1 bid. And so we typically like to see at least 3 bids. So we were happy to see the 5. The low bid came from BOK Financial Securities out of Milwaukee, and their low bid was 5.03%, and the high bid was 5.45%. So just a little bit of kind of context around that interest rate. So we had communicated some information to Cody towards the end of September with interest rates at that time and a little bit of information about the process. Interest rates have increased significantly over the course of the past, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, and they continue to increase. We get benchmarks every Monday morning, and we've seen an increase in rates even since that time. So towards the end of September, we were estimating a rate of just under 4.5%, and bids came in at 5.03%. So as I mentioned, that between that low and high bid of 5.03 and 5.45, I think the fact that the district received 5 bids is indicative of where the market is right now. So I think you did get a fair proposal based on that information. So the short-term borrowing will close on October 19th of 2023. And again, similar to your borrowings in previous years, this will be just under 1 year. And so that payment will be due then October 17th of 2024. So that's all of the information I have. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. I will mention on the interest rate piece too, you will be paying a little bit more on the short-term borrowing side, but hopefully then kind of on the flip side, you'll be able to invest those funds at a little bit higher rate as well. So if there's any kind of silver lining to that might be possible.
I'm curious of the acronym. BOK?
Yes.
What is that? What is
I think it's the Bank of Oklahoma.
I'm Milwaukee.
Huh?
Or Milwaukee.
Well, yeah, yes.
It's close enough. So I do want to give Wendy Stoddy recognition. She does a great job of making sure that these funds work for the district and moving that money around and maximizing our returns on it to offset the borrowing costs. So she does an excellent job of making sure we do that on a monthly basis.
That was my question, kind of the payback strategy. So we contribute something every month. Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, the balance will sit in an account, local government LGIP account, which gives us a really good rate on return. A lot of districts use it across the state. A lot of municipalities use it across the state. Our funds are pretty liquid. I think we like to give a 24-hour period, if I remember correctly, to
15 less than that.
Yeah. That allows us to maximize the returns. You know, we can keep it in that investment account right up until we need to move.
What kind of rates are we getting there?
I have to look. I can't remember.
It's for
and change.
Yeah.
It's much like our interest rates. It seems to be very much as interest rates rise up that rises.
Okay.
So we do everything we can to minimize the cost to borrow this money to help us basically pay the bills when we don't have revenues to match the costs month to month. So.
Are there any other questions? Other than if we have a higher fund balance, it'd be less tomorrow.
Yeah, the ultimate goal for the district would be to get to a point where we have enough reserves where we don't have to do this. We are not there at this moment. We've had to short-term borrow on some levels for a long period of time, years.
Decades.
So, yep. and it's not unique to us, a number of districts do have to go through this process, so.
So if you could just guess for school in Wisconsin, let's say, how typical is this? Sorry,
You might be able to answer that.
Yeah, we just heard something from WASBO that, Mike said about 40% of districts, the 40%, will go into some short-term borrowing of some sort.
So, yeah, it's a chunk.
Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for the report. Wendy Stouty, thank you. Any other questions? So we will need a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Cully. And we will take a roll call. Mr. Landwehr.
Yes.
Mrs. Moss.
Yes.
Mrs. Burnett.
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch.
No.
Mr. Cully.
Yes.
Mr. Black.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have come to the administrative report. Item 7A, communications, Mr. Moore.
Well, communications, we got, June through August 2023 social media report card. That was in your packet. Sorry.
That's pretty interesting, the Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, you know, it's, I think our person who does our social media really does a good job with it. And just the pictures that we put out on social media all the time, it's just, it's really positive for our district and that, so. But you can see, you know, June was very high, July was down, August was up. You'll probably see the same thing next 3 quarters, that it's gonna keep going up because of, you know, we're shooting pictures of kids and teachers engaged and stuff, and so,
And those are our staff that submit that to the,
pictures.
yeah, so it's a staff that takes pictures.
Well, it's the world that you have to get into now.
yeah, it really is.
Some of us are lucky.
And it's, but it's, you know, it's a good thing. I mean, there's so many great things that go on in the district every day, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, item B, pupil count, Mr. Hutchcott, back to you.
So this is a report, so September 15th is when it's called Third Friday Count, so all school districts across the state of Wisconsin basically count the number of students that come through your doors. And that sounds really, really simple, but you'd be amazed at how complex it is. So I'm gonna give a lot of recognition here to a few very important people, Ms. Bauer, Ms. Evans at NES, Ms. Brandmeyer, Ms. Starry at middle school, Ms. Kyle, Ms. Pooler, Ms. Winterston at the high school, Ms. Hissa at Iron River, Ms. Amos within the special education department, and then Ms. Keller out of our district office. These ladies really, it is a very labor intensive process, I will say that, and they've got it moving along pretty cleanly. So kudos to them. There's a lot of work, their work goes into these numbers. So kind of what you have there, the last 3 counts. We do this twice a year. We do it in September, and then we'll do it again in January, kind of midpoints of the school year. So we have the count from last year at this time, and then the most current count, which is the one I really look at. So I guess to kind of break it down, there's what we call our head count, or number of students that are walking through our doors. That number, as of September 15th, was 1,281 students. That's 14 fewer than this time last year. As you work through the columns there with basically the resident reductions, non-resident reductions, resident additions, that's what basically are open enrolled students. Those students fall into a different formula in how they pay, so we take them out. So head count is important to us from the aspect of it's the number of students walking through our doors. What's important to us is on the very right column, which we call FTE count, and how do we get that? So essentially a student like in 4K that does not come every day, all day, they're counted at a percentage, basically half. A student that comes 5 days a week, all day, a third grade student, they count for 1 FTE. So we take those numbers, go through the FTE formula. Our FTE is 1202. Why is FTE important? That's what actually accounts for the dollars that we receive. Okay, from the revenue limit formula side of things. And then we also have summer school that's added in there on the bottom, as you folks can see. And so we picked up essentially 14 FTE in our summer school, which is a very good number, to be completely honest with you. And it's very, very helpful in trying to kind of smooth out some of the declining enrollment that we are facing, as 75% of the districts in the state are in the same boat we are. We're getting smaller, complex. So our FTE decline is 12 from this year to last year. When I look at some of the trends, and you guys have heard this from me before, typically our classes of 100-ish, give or take, are being replaced by classes of 80-ish, low 90-ish. For the first time in probably over 40 years, 30 years, our high school is going to be under 400 students. So these are the trends that we have to continue to look at when we look at, okay, the term that it's not my coin, but it's one that we use quite frequently when we're talking decline enrollment, is right sizing the district. The reality is that our revenue limit formula is based off the number of students we serve, and that won't change in my opinion. So that's part of our reality. We're getting a little bit smaller. Positive note, we are, quote unquote, winning in the game of open enrollment. We have approximately a net gain of 40 plus students going in to our district as opposed to going out. So open enrollment is important to us. We pick up about 162 students in open enrollment and roughly 120 go out. So we're a net of about 40 there.
What's resident reduction?
Those are our students that are homeschooled that come to us for a period or two a day. And we welcome that. A number of our students that are homeschooled do end up ultimately, as a general rule, at least recently, do enroll to us, particularly at the high school level. So by rule, by law, we have to allow that, and we're more than happy to have our homeschooled students join us for up to 2 class periods a day or up to certain subjects. And we do have a couple across the district that do that. Questions that I can answer for you with regards to that. So
I have a comment. Many districts have lost 50% in the last 20 years, let's say, where our district has not lost that many.
Yeah, our highest enrollment roughly, if you're looking at head count, we're going back now probably 20 years thereabouts, maybe even a little bit more. We're looking at 1450 as a head count enrollment, 1485 maybe at the biggest. So, but we ask why. There's no simple answer to that question, to be completely honest with you. And some of the realities that we see is that we know that housing is an issue here. With families are looking for housing. We've had our own teachers try to look for housing in our district, and we haven't found anything that kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. I'll say beginner home, and that might be nice. Or very expensive properties that just fiscally aren't possible for them. That's part of our equation. The reality is that, and this isn't unique to us, this is just true across the state. People are not having as many kids as they maybe have had in the past. That's part of the equation too. Families of 1, 2, 3 kids are much more common than families of 4, 5, 6 kids. So those are some of the factors that we have. So administrative wise, we do look at these lists. We do have to take into account and try to plan, year to year, what our trends are. And that's part of the work that I do out of my office with our count data here, with our administrative team, to not only plan for this fiscal year, but also step 2, step 3, step 4 down the road. So that's the information we have. Any questions that I can try to answer? Yes.
The open enroll out. I'm particularly looking at grades 4, pre-K through 4 is where I'm looking. Is there a way, I don't need it right now, even by email, to find out that particular population, where they would have enrolled in. Not which one of our elementary schools would they have been? Is what I'm looking
More
for.
specifically.
Yeah, and then in relation to last year. So, because those numbers from 2022, 23, grades 5, pre-K through 5, and now 23, 24, pre-K through 5 are, there's a significant difference, and I have a feeling I know why, but I would like to know where those students should have been.
We will look into that and I will get back to you.
Follow-up question regarding in and out. I'm interested in the trends. And I had sent an email earlier today regarding data models that we use for predictors, right?
Yep.
Specifically, a couple things. So if for a net 40 in this year, what was it last year, the year before that? You know?
44 last year. Yeah. Trend wise, yep. So we had essentially right about the same net. So
that's pretty consistent.
It's fairly
year
consistent year to year. There's some fluctuation, and some of the reason why is, I can tell you right now that from what we know, some of our parents live in the Lakeside area and they work in Duluth, and if their student had an issue, it's just easier for them to pick them up in Superior than it is to go out here and back and forth. Some of our families have continued to want to do online instruction, and there's some schools that specialize in that, so they've made that decision. Some of our families have opted for smaller class sizes in terms of building wise. I'm talking South Shore here in terms of that, or it's just you get to the northern part of Iron River, it's closer for them to go to that school eventually, because they know if the student's going to go K-12. So there's not a consistent reason. We do look at it to try to see if we can not only continue to be attractive for open enrollees coming in, but also what might we do to try to recapture some of our open enrolled students living in our districts that are out as well. But there's no one common answer on that. It's, some of these students that have open enrolled out have never been in our district. It's just been, that's the decision that works best for the families. So
there's another question regarding some trends here. So if I look at the K through 6 or K through 9 even, a lot of them are smaller classes. But is that typical?
For us or generally across the state?
For us.
Yeah, like I kind of go back to my point that I think it's where we're going. I mean, as an average, we've usually typically for years had classes of 100.
Even down in the elementary?
Yes. What we're finding now is those classes of 100 are typically graduating, and they're being replaced by classes of somewhere in the 80s, 90s. There's some outliers. We have, take our 6th grade class. It's got 110 students in it, but that's followed up by a 5th grade class of 76 right now as we sit here today. So we have a little bit of that roller coaster. When I kind of look at averaging it out, we're in the mid 80s-ish, give or take. Where past trends we've been in 100 plus, and that's our story, and it's a story for a lot of districts across the state.
Yeah, so it doesn't take a data analysis to say unless Amazon decides to put up a building right here, looking at the elementary class sizes,
we are
bleak future.
We have to, like I said.
Well, I wouldn't say bleak. Let's say bleak.
Okay, wrong choice of words. Lower enrollment.
This is a destination school. I mean, this is a great school district. I mean, but families aren't having as many kids as they used to.
Yeah,
and that's across the country.
This will also start leaving their homes. This is an aging community.
Correct.
There's no leaving, which I think is great, but you get families, well, your folks, I mean, there's my entire surrounding neighbors, they're all folks that have had their kids grown and moved, all of them.
There's a lot of heads to that.
But they're not, and it's years before it's gonna get to that point, before those homes sell and you bring a family in that's gonna replace it.
Like I said, you know, we try to look at factors that some of our completely out of our control. Just the reality as a district, right? You know,
But we're still winning on bringing more kids in.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think the number one reason for that is? You might have theories, but they're good teachers.
I mean, I, as I like to say, I've been here for, I think it's my 15th year now. We're far from perfect, but we do some really good things out here. And I don't try to talk poorly of any other surrounding district. I like to talk about what we do here. We have a great staff, great teachers, great students. And I stay here because I work with good people. That's really what it boils down to for me. And I think that's definitely part of the draw. And the term I keep coming to, again, it's not my term, but we can continue to have great opportunities. We just got to right size things. That's our reality.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that report.
Thank you, everybody.
Let's see, we had a preview of this, but for the fall Region 1 meeting.
Yeah, just as I said, at the beginning of the meeting tonight, the fall Region 1 meeting, our meeting is Wednesday night, October 18th at Best Western Hotel Schwambian. And we kind of have a full group going over, so should be a good night.
Talk to Mr. Canada about that.
Yeah, if there's anybody that wants to.
Maintenance update, back to Mr. Petricott.
You have the maintenance update in your packet there. You've heard enough from me tonight, I think, but pretty standard stuff. Where, you know, buildings are open. We're as we found out, nothing breaks when you don't use it. So we're starting to use some stuff some more. So we've got some general maintenance stuff that just happens in our buildings. That has to happen. So that's listed there for you. Nothing particularly outside the norm. I will say that we fired our boilers today because the weather forecast has us kind of about a high of 50, and we want to hold off as long as we can, but our buildings were chilly this morning, and we're making heat in all of them as we speak. So, just our reality.
It was brisk this morning.
Yeah, so like sweater boots. Okay.
Hopefully it's better. I know I heard it a lot in my office. We did fire them. If you hear any complaints, just send them to me. I'll take complaints.
You know, we could have let them off for another week and had like sweatshirt days.
Yeah.
Wear
your favorite
sweatshirt.
Base layer.
I'm gonna go ahead and say no comment on that one, because that's really gonna get me in trouble.
Okay, item E, donations, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, Northwestern Middle School received a $50 Amazon gift card and bottled water and candy from Sarah and Greg. Is that Pletz? 25 water bottles from Christy, is it Eason? Essence, excuse me. And Dan and Sarah Erickson from Arrowhead Printing donated a large tiger head for the middle school entryway. We'd like to say thank you to them for all that. At the elementary school, they received 3 bags of miscellaneous school supplies from Bonnie Carlson, backpacks, pencils, pencil boxes, folders, spiral notebooks, and miscellaneous and other school supplies were donated by the Mission Covenant Church. A bag of school supplies were donated by Rachel, is it Ravila? Ravila. And Essential Health donated 2 bags of school supplies, and over 50 boxes of crayons were donated by Michael and is it Delia?
I think.
Halstead. So we'd like to thank all those people in the Mission Covenant Church for their generous donations.
Yeah, great. It's awesome.
And those online, I'm learning the names, so.
Okay, item F, WASB correspondence and legislative report. Ms. Wilson.
The Wisconsin Department of Justice's Office of School Safety has 3 active grants available for application. Most notably is Wisconsin Act 109 for digital mapping of school buildings, of which the state allocated an additional $2,500,000 for awards in the most recent state budget. Also, the Speak Up, Speak Out promotional grant is available. These grants can be viewed via the Office of School Safety's website.
I will just let the board know, we did apply for the mapping grant. And that work will hopefully happen here in the next couple of weeks. So, apply for it.
Okay, thank you very much. CISA 12 report, Mr. Lonick.
Okay, from last meeting, some of the talking points were, Nick and 3 other directors participated in a training on business practices for CISAs last week in Wisconsin Dells with 10 other CISAs. They started looking at different venues for learning opportunities and meetings in Ashland, and that is working out for them so far. Part of that's because they have a smaller space that rent out a different place to host some bigger conferences, and it's working out. Amanda Popovich talked about career readiness, helping districts build a K-12 sequence to prepare students for college and career. Looked at what career paths are needed in our area, what information should be collected in the districts for different purposes, including career readiness. They are providing training and support to districts around these topics. The districts make good decisions on how to grow their programs that will contribute to overall workforce development. State benchmark for students involved in work experience is 8%. CISA 12 districts have a rate of over 30%. Olivia Dulwich, I think her name is, developed a youth, she's a part of the youth apprenticeship program for CISA 12. Which came from a grant from the DWD, which funds her position. She has met with 84 employees across the region to coordinate work-based learning locations for students, also building a career opportunities for students. Next step is communicating with schools so that the students know how and when to sign up for work opportunities. That'll be for juniors and seniors. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, a Zoom meeting, and then they're hosting the Northern Wisconsin Sportsmanship Summit in Superior, and the keynote speaker is our own superintendent. What date is that?
I do believe it's the, I want to say November 17th.
I think that's right.
14.
14th?
You're going.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Just my calendar.
Item H, student staff community recognition. Was this month?
We did not have any this month, but I will, would like to just give a shout out to all the youth football coaches that have been putting in a lot of time during the week and coaching the youth football teams here all fall. It's been I've been at a lot of their games. It's very impressive what they do day in and day out and that. So I just want to give them a little recognition.
That's great. And I know all the activities here, the one act plays,
going. I went in last week to watch they had a competition against Drummond with that one act play, and they were so good. I mean, they are really good. And I touched base with a couple of kids the next day, just saying, God, you were really amazing. So when that comes up here in the next few weeks, I highly recommend everybody to go watch it because those kids are dynamite.
And we hear more about what's happening at the high school. We get to the student.
I have one question, maybe worth noting, and I don't know who can answer it. It's I heard, and I wasn't there, I think it was at a football game, perhaps some of the seniors made mention to teachers that were influential, and then they well, you know what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
Who was that? We know that people?
Football program, particularly Allison Melly runs that, it's Teacher Appreciation Night. We've done it the last 4 years, maybe. The senior football players and cheerleaders pick out a teacher that's been their mentor, role model, whatever, and then we purchase some plaques for that teacher, and then we introduce her at a football game. And Allison takes the lead on that.
I love it. Anybody remember any of those teachers?
It's teachers and staff members.
Teachers and staff.
Yeah, any staff member, K-12 staff, we've got custodians, we've got administrative assistants, paras, current board members have been recognized.
Yeah, great venue. Exactly. Thank you. I'm glad to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, item I, reports. We got reports from the Northwestern High School, Northwestern Athletics and Activities, Northwestern Middle School, Northwestern Elementary, and River Elementary Schools, and the Director of Special Ed, just their counselors. And I just want to say that, for one, I really appreciate those reports because we find out what's happening. We see how busy you are just in the last month, previous month. And, it's great to catch up on things. So I thank you very much for those reports. And then this.
Can you comment on that?
You certainly can.
The Ride Safe event, I was part of that, and that was very impressive to get all the kids through the school here. That was pretty cool. And the people that put that on were very impressed of our school. So they're, in fact, someone said they're the best school I've been there. So thanks to everybody for that.
Our student board representatives, Lawson Burkhardt and Maria Wiener, will now get us caught up on some of the high school actions. A couple of linksters.
Hello again, members of the school board. So today I'm going to update you guys on the athletics and what you can expect for the future. And then Maria will update us on the school activities and clubs. So football, our football team, we're 5-1 right now in the conference. We might have lost Cameron, but we quickly bounced back and defeated Chautauqua, Cumberland, and most recently we kind of obliterated Barron. So this is a bit of a So we're continuing to fight for the conference title, and then we're going to play Bloomer this Friday at our home field. So make sure to come out for that. Our volleyball girls are having a tough season, but they're continuing to fight as the season kind of draws to a close. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., the varsity team will face Cumberland in an away match. Following that, on I think Thursday, they will play Chautauqua here at 7 p.m. as well. And then cross country, tomorrow we are running our conference meet in Cameron. We recently ran at the Hayward Invitational, which is, our girls took first place in that, I think for the third year in a row, was it? Yeah, I think third year in a row. And after conference, all the varsity members, I think it's top 7 people for the boys and the girls, will travel to Rice Lake for the sectionals meet. And then, yeah, hoping to qualify for state. And yeah.
Will that be at the same course that you ran previously in Rice
Lake?
Lake?
Yep, same course. So, and then girls golf, they finished their season a while ago, but I'll still highlight it. The girls golf team, they finished their conference meet at the TOA golf course, where the team finished 5th overall in the conference. Following that, the girls competed at regionals and placed 4th. They missed state or sectionals by 1 stroke. Sorry to put salt on the wound, Marina. But we did that last year too, so I can feel that. But sophomore Grace Schmidt, she made it individually to sectionals, and she placed, I think, 38th. Yep. And yeah, that's pretty much it in the athletic. I'm ready to do it.
Hi, I'm Maria. And so almost all of our clubs have either already had their first meetings and gotten started, or they're going to be getting started very soon, either this week or the following. The FFA club, who was in here earlier, sent a team of students that I was able to be a part of to Milltown, which is outside of St. Croix Falls, to participate in a land judging competition. This is one of the first times that we've been able to do this as an FFA, and that was a really exciting thing to be a part of. The drama team / the one act play held the sub-district competition here at Northwestern last week. They did very well, and they'll be competing in the district competition coming up. I believe it's in the next week or two. That will not be hosted here. I'm not 100% sure the location of that. The art club had its first meeting today during advisory, where they voted for their officers and introduced the new members to the club. The quiz bowl team had their first competition last week. It was a close match where they lost by 1 question. They'll continue tomorrow and Thursday with competing, and they will continue competing to the fall. They are hosted here, and they are online with the other schools. DECA is getting up and running this week. They have their first meeting on Friday. They are doing mostly a introductory meeting. They do not really start their competitions until the fall and winter. Peer mentoring is beginning soon. Several mentors will start heading to the elementary school this week to work with a student one-on-one and provide them a mentor and just be there for them in lots of different ways. And the Green Club has set a date for their fall highway cleanup. We'll be doing a cleanup at the very beginning of November as long as the weather holds on.
Thank you. And sometimes they're underrated. All the clubs we have and organizations is just very impressive. The kids are so involved in those things. So I thank you for that report. Okay, item 8, comments from the audience. Hang on, I have a little speech here. Okay, comments from the public. Agenda item is not the forum for the school district Maple personnel concerns. The public needs to refrain from the use of names or specific positions when used in a negative manner. If you have concerns that involve personnel or staff members, please contact the building principal or the superintendent. And if you would please state your name and township or village that you're from. What's that?
Camera.
Oh, camera, the transmission will be cut off right now.
We've completed school business.
You've completed the school business. Correct. Okay, so are there any comments from the audience?